Good afternoon, or good morning, or good evening, wherever you may be. Welcome to today's second PADA Discover Beyond session. Sorry, let me just move my next. Today, the Discover Beyond sessions are the perfect opportunity for you to discover the latest products and solutions that can help build your business and brand post. Begin the sessions with a broad overview of the corresponding topic. That will be followed by quick fire presentations from the exhibitors who are exhibiting at today's event. Today's subject is Discover Beyond Health, Hygiene, and Sustainability. We're talking about balancing people, planet, and profit in a post-COVID-19 world. As you very well know, sustainability is a broad topic and difficult to define precisely. However, it's commonly agreed that the basic concept is based on three pillars of protecting people, planet, and profit. So today's session will explore how the current situation has affected these basic concepts. So first, let me just introduce myself. My name is Paul Brangan. I am Director of Communications and External Affairs at the Pacific Asia Travel Association, and I will be your host for this afternoon session. Just a couple more quick notes. For those of you who are on the event website, on the web-based version, you'll notice on the right-hand side is where you can comment and chat with the other participants. Please send your questions there. So please just type in your questions in that section there. My team will then send it over to us to send to our panelists or to the different organizations that will be presenting today. Do note there is a slight delay from us filming it to you watching it. It's about 30 seconds. So therefore, if you have a question at any point during the panel discussion, during the pitch sessions, please send them immediately just so that we get them as soon as possible. As I said, so if you wait till the very, very end to send your question, we might not be able to get to that. For those of you who are watching using the mobile app, to send a question, again, just click on session chat, submit your questions via that, and we will then send them over, excuse me, to the moderator to ask the speaker or panelist. And with that, we've come to the beginning of the Discover Beyond session, where we were talking about balancing people, planet, and profit in a post-COVID-19 world. With us, very pleased to have with us, who will be moderating this session, the co-founder of both of us, and she's also a sustainability consultant. Ella Everett is the co-founder of Both of Us Limited, a social impact company that uses technology and design to accelerate the UN Sustainable Development Goals. She also advises businesses on creating impact, innovation, and sustainability. Her aim is to bring together circular economy, the donut economy, and permaculture to accelerate positive social and environmental impact, encouraging new perspective thinking and regeneration. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Ms. Ella Everett. Ella?
Hello, good morning, good afternoon, good day to everyone, and thanks a lot for having me, Paul. It's really an honor to be here, and I'm very much looking forward to this session. I think the three pillars of sustainability are that we really need to focus on them, and especially because with people sustainability, sometimes people don't always know what it means. So I'm really looking forward to this session. And I would love to invite on stage, Matt, the speakers for today. So we have Brad Weller, who is the Managing Director at Winnow. He has over 30 years experience leading global teams in organizational and individual transformation across multiple sectors. And he helps businesses and teams to reduce carbon impact, but in a profitable way. We also have Nia Klat. She is the Executive Director and Regional Sustainability Coordinator for Curie Travel. She's also a sustainable and responsible tourism specialist. And within a year, she's helped Curie become the first DMC to be Travel Life certified in all its offices, which is brilliant. And we also have Bijan Kazi. He is the CEO for Hotel Resilience. Bijaz is an expert in risk assessment and has more than 20 years of experience in foresight methods in disaster risk management. So I'd like to invite all of our speakers to join me now. Hi, Nia.
Hi, Ella.
Yes, Bijan and Brad, you guys can turn your cameras on and join the panel.
Paul, I think you had stopped my video, so if you could restart me, that would be great.
Same for me. Yeah, I'm on. That's great.
Wonderful. Hi, Bijan.
Hi.
Hey, thanks.
Hi,
Hi, Eller.
Perfect.
Hey.
How are you all?
Great.
Wonderful. Well, it's a pleasure to have you all here today, and to have such great experts with sustainability. So I'd really love to talk to you about, with the coronavirus, with everything that's happening now, do you see sustainability as still a priority, and will still be a priority in the post-COVID world, and why? I'll start, Nia, would you like to answer?
Yeah, sure, absolutely. I think now more than ever, actually, sustainability is an important factor to consider. And this crisis has just shown us once more the importance of a more responsible tourism industry. So looking at some of our destinations really have been hit hard by this crisis, and how whole communities are currently suffering from unemployment and a loss of economy, it really shows that we need to integrate sustainability when borders reopen again and travelers come back to our destination. So it's absolutely a priority for us, and it should be.
Great, thanks a lot. And Bijan, would you like to add anything to this?
Sure, I can just echo what was said. I really think, in a way, the sort of greenwashing probably is not going to work anymore, and we have a real critical mass of customers who are more educated than ever, and are making wise decisions about responsible travel. At the same time, you have critical mass of tourism professionals who are genuinely looking at dealing with sustainability challenges in a more serious and holistic way. So in a way, I think it's here to stay, and our job is really figuring out how to then capture this interest in a positive way. Topic is complex, but also figuring out how to not make it overcomplicated.
Brilliant. Yeah, I think this is really the key as well, is because, it's finding this balance between the really, really complex, talking about complex solutions, but trying to make it easily understandable for everyone. Absolutely. And Brad, what are your thoughts on this?
Yeah, I would say we're all trying to sustain, right, in the last 12 to 18 months. And I think we're finding, how do we sustain our relationships? That's important. We're all making really different personal choices, some because we have to. How do we sustain our profitability within our own organizations and sustain the people that are helping to deliver that profitability? And so I think those choices that we're all making, I think Bijan hit it, is we can't help but stand back from that and see not only the changes in our own lives, but the changes that have been brought on the planet for the positive. And so I think there's just many more people today that are thinking that if we went back to 2019, it would be nothing short of a moral failure. And I think humanity can stand up against that and say, we're not going to let that happen.
Brilliant. Yeah. And I love what you speak about with the side from profit as well, because this is they're all so important. You actually can't have reached sustainability if you don't have this profit side as well, which I think a lot of people don't realize. And also talking about this with the, with the 3 pillars of sustainability, a lot of people, they hear sustainability and they think the environment, which of course covers that, but then it's the people side and the profit side as well. And that's why it's really interesting to talk to you guys today, because when we're talking about health and hygiene, this is coming from the, people would think, but how is this linked to sustainability? But it's actually so linked, because it's people as well. It's about how is this going to actually affect people in this kind of post-coronavirus world, but in general, and sustainability. So would you all consider that kind of the health and hygiene and resilience has been overlooked, has been the overlooked part of sustainability, really, particularly talking about kind of protecting people and planet and profit? Do you think this has had much of a focus, or not so much?
I think so. I mean, I come from a hygiene background and food safety, particularly in kitchens. And one of the things that chefs always talked about was you can't have health without hygiene. So you talked about the connection there, right? So you start with hygiene, you start with teaching people about what that means, and then you move on to people being healthier and seeing cause and effect. Where you can't have sustainability or sustain anything if you don't have hygiene and you don't have health. So I mean, that's really just this closed loop circle. So I just take it all back to sustaining what we've been doing, and taking the positive. This is really important. But I think it was a really interesting question that you've linked those three things together. And I think leaders that aren't thinking about how to make an impact in those three areas are really missing something.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
I think from I can only speak from Kiri's experience, but we have always included health and safety, for example, in our sustainability assessments of our suppliers. So it was always a topic, and it's been something where we worked with our suppliers. We've done trainings about these topics. But generally, I think this crisis is just something we've never had before. We've never anticipated. So I think there's a huge learning curve for all of us. And especially, I think resilience is extremely important. And in my opinion, is really going to be a key word moving forward in the future. And this is something we need to really integrate in the way we do business in the future. And I think this is something where we want to focus on in the next few years, to really rethink how the tourism industry is shaped so far and how we can support local communities better in crisis like that.
Yeah, and I can just add to that. I mean, our experience at Hotel Resilient is coming from the resilience side of sustainability. If you can look at sides that way, there's a big debate on what is resilience, what is sustainability. But our focus has always been looking at risk and understanding sort of a risk-based way of resilience. And, health and hygiene is, in a way, we see the COVID crisis has taught us it's really about crisis management. It's not just, wash hands and all will be well. It's really having a system and strategic framework on how to manage a crisis, communication, business continuity. It's a holistic framework that has to be considered. And I think it's broadened our horizons on how we think about health and hygiene going forward.
Yeah, great. I'd like to pick up on a few of the things that you all said there, actually, because well, Nia, what I loved what you were saying about this local side as well, because what I've noticed a lot is there seems to be almost this kind of disconnection of the, of local sustainability and the global sustainability. And there's often not this integration. And I think it's, it's always going back to this importance of kind of acting locally, but thinking globally, because it is about this kind of integration. It's not about one or the other. So this is really interesting what you said. And also, Bijan, about the managing the crisis, because if you look at COVID now, whilst there's been a reduction in travel and things like this, and in terms of the environmental side, it almost looks like there's been some good progress. I'm not good progress, but you kind of know what I mean. People have been stuck for a long time, but on the other side, you see all of these things that's come, and this also links back to the health and the hygiene, with things like all the masks and the gloves and everything like this that have kind of come out now. And this has almost come as another problem from us trying to manage this crisis. So in terms of this, then, when travel is over, how do you think we can avoid these mistakes that we had kind of pre-COVID, like over tourism and everything like this? Because I imagine there will be a big rush, everyone wants to go on holiday. How can we avoid these mistakes?
Go ahead, Mia, please.
Please,
No,
you
no,
start.
No, after you.
So I think this being touched upon already, I think in the future it's really important to understand that, yes, we are in it for the profit, but we won't succeed if we don't consider people and planet in everything we do. And for me, or for us at Hygiene, it's not a question of either profit or sustainability. but we really need to find ways to integrate sustainability in our everyday operations, in our management. And so, for example, what we are doing is we're now trying to start promoting slow travel itineraries, so without any regional flights, where activities are really benefiting people and planet, and where we visit less developed and less visited destinations, where guests are staying longer in one destination. And I think, again, this has been mentioned before, is we need to engage travelers. We need to educate them about their impact and how they can actively support the destinations they visit. I think they have an interest. They want to support the destinations they visit. So I think sustainability shouldn't be seen as something to compete in, or something to add, or something like an add-on, but it really needs to be integrated in everything we do every day, and also when we talk about revenue.
Mhm. Can I add to that? I think another side of that is really about having pragmatic and science-based tools, right? So it's a complex topic. So how do we break it down into bite-sized pieces? How do we help professionals systematically implement sustainability and resilience? And I think there, you need actionable data. There was a session on big data this morning. And often, sometimes sustainability and resilience metrics end up being a bit generic because they try to encompass a lot of things. But they have to sort of hit the bottom line in terms of profit, cost savings, cost avoidance, revenue growth. At the same time, they have to be tailored to tourism operations in a way that they matter to people and planet. So building those tools, building those metrics, standards, and norms is an effort we saw with COVID, how the world was launched all of a sudden, so many different protocols, so many different standards. And in our case, dealing with hotels, having to implement those has been really challenging, but it shows it can be done. So how do we build on that momentum now and take it further?
Brad, have you got anything you'd like to add?
No, I don't think I couldn't add more value than what was just added there. And Mia, you're going to have me reading up on slow tourism here. That's really fascinating.
Yeah, it sounds brilliant. And then from this, I suppose this kind of leads on to what we've just been talking about. But how can we all work together? How can we create this more sustainable and responsible industry, I suppose?
Yeah, I would. So we're giving this a lot of thought within our group, and as we talk about larger enterprises that, to Bijan's point, that want to scale meaningful technology that delivers insights, not just a lot of big data, that there just is no absence for leadership. So I think we all, as followers, we're all following somebody, right? And whether it's on Instagram or the CEO of our company, but we're following people, and we need leaders that put really big, audacious targets out there, not the glossy sustainability reports and not the greenwashing that Bijan mentioned, but big, hairy, audacious targets that go beyond Davos and large declarations to something that is measurable, that is broken down, as you mentioned, that can be broken down into bite-sized pieces that we can all own within our own realm of influence, whether we're greeting somebody at a hotel door or we're running finance for a global region. And so I think those CEOs that are putting public targets in place, they're declaring, they're forming private and public partnerships, because business can't do this alone, government can't do it alone, and individuals can't do it on their own. So I think it's just no absence of leadership going forward. And so I really respect some of the large enterprise leaders that have just gotten out there and made these declarations, and then are putting some serious money behind it.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. I love that what you've been saying, because it's about this, and it's also about the people that follow it. It's about having these kind of change makers that are leading this change and really building it into their process. And as you say, from these big companies as well, they have so much influence, and if they can really show that they are meeting the three needs, the needs of the people, the planet, and profit, then brilliant.
And Greta Thunberg has just so interestingly taken the mantle, right, away from CEOs. I mean, she is really, we are following Greta Thunberg. And I just think that's so interesting that this change is going to come from inside of companies. It's going to come from the tourists that Nia talk about, that's making personal change. And for those CEOs that are or business owners that are running through this kicking and screaming, are going to have to stop kicking and screaming and just get on the boat, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
I couldn't agree more with Brad. I think, you know, the real driver here are these kinds of innovative interagency and strategic partnerships. I've worked a lot looking at post-disaster recovery, and we've studied this. You know, so one thing that happens often is sort of this balancing between having to come up with quick, speedy solutions that meet the needs, you know, like coming up with quick shelter and housing, and then these complex deliberations that have to take place that involve multiple competing criteria, a whole host of actors. Those are really difficult, but ultimately they maximize opportunities for building back better. And, you know, we've seen one of the challenges with this crisis has been lack of having these kinds of, you know, interagency collaborations in a very fluid way. So there's been a lot of undermining of that sort of thing. So that's a big challenge. And I think our brains are also unfortunately not wired very well for doing this. So it really requires new way of thinking and innovations to get us in that direction of being able to have these kind of complex deliberations.
Yeah, I think it's also important to create a space where it's okay to ask questions, ask for advice, or share best practices. And I'm very happy to say that actually for Kiri, we are part of a lot of different networks, a lot of working groups where we work with our competitors together to really promote responsible tourism in our destinations. And just one example is we have a sustainability assessment for our hotels, and it looks great. And if there's only the logo of Kiri, the impact is going to be rather small. But if we have the logos of all the big DMCs and of all the big tour operators on there, I mean, a lot of the hotels are going to pay more attention and going to try their best to actually fulfill this criteria. So I think it's really important to work together. And it's funny that you mentioned this topic, because I just recently did a big webinar with GSTC on exactly this topic. So if anyone's interested in how you as a tour operator or DMC can collaborate with your competitors and your local partners, reach out to me and I can send you the link to that webinar, or check out the GSTC website.
Brilliant, thank you. And then from that as well, because I think this is, you know, it sounds like you would have some great advice. I would love to know if, you know, I'm sure all of you have great advice on what would you say to companies now that are trying to move forward in this post-COVID world while still being sustainable, you know, and looking out for these 3 pillars?
I think what's really important coming out of this crisis is to make clear that sustainability not always has to have a lot of cost involved. So there's for sure certain investments which can be made, which are really expensive. But I think, especially right now, budgets might be very small for a lot of companies, or there might be no budget at all. And I think it's relatively easy just to start the conversation, engage your staff. You can do trainings. There's so much content available online. You can play games and quizzes and really work together with your staff so that internally you get a good setup, and evaluate where you currently are. So start measuring your electricity and your water use, and look around in your office, like where do we create waste, for example. So it's these little things where I think you can easily get started even right now, and maybe especially right now, because you're not busy with that everyday job with tourists on the ground or tourists in your property, but it really gives you time now to rethink, like, okay, once travelers are coming back, what do we want to do, where do we want to go? And I think it gives you great time now to reconsider your policies and what kind of impacts you have on people and planet.
Brilliant.
Yeah, I want to add to what you said, Nia. I think it's foundational what you talk about, because you talk about baseline, right? Where am I? And no journey begins if you don't know where you are. And I think everyone that's joined this, please take that away. I would say that one thing Nia said is just know where you are. And some companies can use pen and paper to measure things. You don't have to spend thousands of dollars on technology. And yeah, sure, those enterprises that have massive volumes of anything need to automate and need data. But we can all do our part if we just know what our gas bill at home says. Know where you're starting from. I think that's really great.
Brilliant.
Exactly. And I think Brad Pata did a study not too long ago, certainly after COVID, they found 60% of hotels don't have a crisis management plan. So, knowing where you are, benchmarking that, putting a strategy together, and talking about resilience and sustainability, then, we'd like to think this will be over and things will be fine. But, there's the climate crisis, there is biodiversity loss, there's challenges ahead that are also global in nature, interconnected. So it's time also now to think about sort of a more systematic way of trying to, look at those problems. And we've worked a lot at Hotel Resilient with SMEs who, have to worry about closing and don't necessarily have all the resources. But the good news is that there's a lot of free tools, a lot of accessible tools out there, purpose-driven communities to connect to cut through all the noise, in terms of social media, and to be able to profile your story and tell the story in an authentic and transparent way. And I think there's a very receptive audience for that now as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's really interesting you say that as well, because the companies that I work with, I think it's super important it's bringing it actually into the process. It's not always just top down, it's also bottom up, and it's how do the employees feel, and how is it built into the core values? How is sustainability actually measured from the inside rather than just externally? Because it's both so important, to actually make it sustainable in the long run. And I think a key thing as well is I'll always say we try and make the smallest possible change for the greatest possible effect. Because to change a whole company round, this is not really looking after the profit side always. And it may just be a really, really small thing, like changing the energy provider, for example, or changing to a different type of paper, or something really, really small that actually could have a big effect. But as you said, Nia, it's so important to know where they are first, to know what that small change is that they have to start with. So I'm wondering, Paul, do we have enough time for one more question?
You also have a question in the Q&A, so you can you have about 5-10 minutes, so you can use there's a question in the Q&A. You can.
Oh yeah, wonderful. Yeah. Okay, perfect. So it says, I wonder if Miss Nia or also other speakers could explain how or in what way we can educate consumers to, for example, take on slow tourism. This is from Kartika.
So what we are trying to do, so we are assessing our suppliers, and we know exactly what kind of activities are actively benefiting people or profit. And we've created little icons and we highlight these excursions. And so in our travel proposals, we add as many responsible hotels, but also as many responsible activities as possible. And then with the little icons right away, you will see, oh, great, I'm doing something good actually while doing this community visit, for example. So we have internal criteria to assess that. And as a DMC, we are only in contact with the travel agents, so we don't necessarily always ask what the guests are asking for. And so we can't know that. So we just have that opinion, okay, we're going to make the itineraries as responsible as possible, even if they don't ask for it. Even if they're not necessarily asking for an eco-friendly hotel, we let them stay in an eco-friendly hotel. So this is our way forward, I think. And we're educating our tour guides so they know how to be a responsible traveler, so they can explain to their guests how to respect people and planet. We inform our guests as well. It's like, hey, by going on this specific tour, you are supporting, I don't know, one family, and they can send their kids to school, and which is great. So yeah, just we try to find a story around these products, and we try to make it as personal as possible for our guests to understand the impact.
Brilliant, thank you. Do either of you like to add anything to that? A very good answer.
It was indeed.
Okay, wonderful. Perfect. Do we have any more time, Paul, or shall I pass it back to you?
If you have any last questions or any last comments, but then if not, we can wrap it up and we can go into the next session. Up to you, Ella.
I just have one question, which I will try and cut it down. Could be very broad, so my apologies. But really, what can we learn from this crisis? You know, if there was one thing that we can take away from it, you know, during this kind of, well, it's the first time we're in a crisis so big, you know, like this, it's completely global. What positive thing can we take away from it?
I think it shows us mass tourism as it's been in a lot of the destinations. It's just not working. Looking at the unemployment rate or how many businesses had to close down, it's just really heartbreaking. And I think I hope we can take this as a chance now to really reevaluate again where we are. And I hope that we from the private industry, we can try to really work together with local governments and DMOs together to promote responsible tourism. That's my hope.
Great, thank you.
I think for me, it's a little personal. I think I'm sure, I hope this resonates with others. I mean, if you don't come out of this COVID situation feeling a little more vulnerable, and if we're not sharing that vulnerability, I think Nia talked about, you know, a safe space to share where you are and what you're thinking and what you're feeling. And I think as we come out of this thing, I think there's just this collective empathy rise that I'm hearing my colleagues and customers. And I think if we can hang on to that, if we can slow down or keep the speed at a place where you still have room for empathy and gratitude that has, I believe, really amped up in the last 18 months. That really goes a long way to being more empathetic for the planet, empathetic for wildlife, being more attuned to overproduction of anything. And my wish coming out of this is that we can all, and I personally, I hope I can hang on to those gains.
Yeah, what a wonderful thought. I think that's exactly how I feel too, on a personal level. It feels like, you know, someone at midlife is afflicted with some kind of a health crisis, you know, all the while thinking you're not vulnerable. Now it's made it much more visceral for you. So you knew the right behavior before, but now it means something different. I feel that this crisis has that kind of a story to it. It's shown how interconnected we all are and dependent on each other. So I do hope that you know, that is a lasting feeling, that sense of interconnectedness. And then going back to what we talked about, this notion of collaboration and getting better at it. You know, management innovations to get better at working cross-border, working cross-agency for something as complex and global as this, because we know there is climate change, and that's also complex and global, and it's not so sudden. So it's creeping up on us, and we tend to forget that sense of urgency that we feel, I think, with COVID.
Yeah. Well, thank you all so much. It's been really, really great hearing your insights and all the wonderful work that you're doing. And Paul, I'll pass back over to you now.
Well, thank you very much.
Thank you, Eller. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ella. Thank you, Bijan, Nia, and Brad. Really, really fascinating, engaging discussion. I really love what Brad said about, you know, the need for big, bold leadership. Maybe somebody out there who's watching this session will be that next big, bold leader and put those targets out there. So you guys can all turn off your cameras and go on mute as we move into the next sessions. Ella will be joining me a bit later. She'll help me moderate the questions as we get into the second half of the Discover Beyond session, is where we just have the sort of business roundtable or pitch sessions. This is the perfect opportunity to find out what is out there, right? You know, I think I said this morning, even at Pod, when we were looking for a solution for having virtual events, you would have to actually go out there individually, search for these companies and go to their websites. You know, Pod Beyond, we're trying to give you opportunity to have, you know, as many solution providers, in this particular case would be sustainability or hygiene solution providers, in one place. So you don't have to go out there and search. You can come, look at what's available, and then actually go and call them and contact them, set up a meeting with them and find out more. So we have some companies here. We have, of course, I think our sustainability director or specialist will be talking a bit as well. We also have representatives from Light Blue Consulting. Brad and Nia and Bijan will be back to talk about more about their companies and what they're doing. We also have the sales director from Mentari Alam, and last Andre Russ from EarthCheck. So without further ado, I would like to then call the first organization here on my list here is Graham, our Sustainability and Social Responsibility Specialist at PATA. So Graham, right.
Oh, thank you very much. Pleasure to be here.
Yes, once you have your presentation up and running, we'll start the 5 minutes. So after that, you'll have 3 minutes for Q&A.
Thank you, Paul. Is that presentation coming through?
Yep, you're all.
Wonderful, thanks. My 5 minutes has started. Basically just trying to tackle the problem, how to build back clean and green. Our focus is destinations, and ultimately we will never have sustainable tourism until destinations have the infrastructure, trade, and capacity to mitigate externalities by tourism. We need the capacity to implement national regulations, global best practices that can really, really help us manage the tourism impacts and create sustainability. We need the trade, the businesses, and in order for that, destinations need to be able to attract and support the private sector, to support their sustainability initiatives and attract their investments. Finally, we need the infrastructure, and that infrastructure which exponentially impacts the local populations and habitats. This infrastructure needs to be sustainable infrastructure, waste management, water treatment, etc. We saw a breakdown in this pre-COVID. This is where we were having destinations that were not able to do this and creating things such as the over-tourism. Unfortunately, we're still seeing it even with the domestic tourism that's taking place in many destinations, where we still do not have the capacity and the infrastructure in place. And unless we start to make these changes, we're going to have the challenges continue post-COVID. Post-COVID, to have the infrastructure so that we're able to handle the tourism properly and actually able to promote the habitat protection, which ultimately is one of our greatest insurance policies. So what is our pitch? What is our solution? And we have two offers, two things for the travel and tourism industry, and more specifically for destinations. The first is the impact on health and hygiene, post-COVID-19 destination competitiveness report. Ultimately, this argues that the new travelers post-COVID are going to have an increase in concern for health and safety. And that the destinations that are investing now, that are improving their health and safety, that have the protocols and are able to communicate those clearly, will have an improved tourism competitiveness post-COVID. So this is very much an argument, a support for taking a strong look at your destinations now and trying to understand what needs to be done today to ensure that you have that strong, vibrant, resilient, sustainable tourism destination in the future. Our second offering is another toolkit, this time more focused at the private sector and for the tour operators. There was a lot of talk in the panel before about the increase in plastics and the impacts that that's having. The increase in the face mask, the gloves, the wrappings for food, all the different things. This started pre-COVID, but it became even more so important during the COVID crisis. And that we need to be able to go and we need to measure our operations. We need to assess them to be able to determine what operational changes can be taken to then ultimately eliminate the plastics from that tour supply chain. So both of these toolkits, reports going together to help support the increase in the need for health and hygiene for a more sustainable tourism in the future. Thank you very much, Paul. And if anyone wants to get in touch, we have these reports and things on our CRC website, crcpata.org.
Okay, well, thank you much, Graham. Eller's back. Eller, you have any questions for Graham about sustainability here?
I do. So this was really, really interesting. And I love this part about the plastic as well, because as we were talking about before, this is, it's always been an issue, but now we're seeing it more visibly. So what would you say is kind of the best way to eliminate these plastics from the tour supply chain?
Extremely difficult, but really it has to be a step-by-step approach. And it needs to start with the measurement, the assessment of the operations, of what is going on. Once you're able to assess, once you're able to start measuring, then you're going to start to be able to manage. It's maybe oversimplified to say, you need to measure to manage, but it's very, very true. And that's where you need to start with your assessment.
Brilliant, thank you. And just one more question as well, because you were talking about the habitat protection as well, which was really, really interesting for me. So how do you think we can promote this habitat protection in the industry?
I think that it's becoming much higher recognition value, which is great. But we also need to start to actually be able to put a value on it, especially when we're looking at the resiliency of destinations, for example, coastal destinations, and the need for that habitat protection, just to be able to protect the very reason for being for the tourist to go to that destination, for example, a beautiful beach, and that the mangrove forest in that area is actually protecting your resource. So you value your resource, then you have to start to value that habitat protection. And ultimately, we pay for insurance policies. That habitat protection needs to be thought of as our ultimate insurance policy, hence the need to pay for it.
Brilliant. I love that. What a brilliant quote. I think I need to write this down. Thanks, Graham.
Watch this. This is actually being broadcast on our YouTube channel, so you can come back and replay this and rewatch on the YouTube channel. Graham, I know we're both in Spada, but so is the plastics one, is that available on the CRC already?
It is, sorry, Paul, it's not on the CRC website, but it is on the PATA website. Just go to the pata.org, the sustainability section, and the future of travel. PATA is also a member of the Global Tourism Plastics Initiative, GTPI, and it's also available on that website as well. This is all part of our TourLink project that we're doing in collaboration with Switch Asia.
Okay, I think we're out of time for our 3 minutes of questions.
Thank you very much, Paul.
Eleanor, come back on after the next one, because we have with us the Senior Manager of Strategy and Operations at Light Blue Consulting. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Lauren Caruni. Lauren, over to you.
Hello, everyone. Can you hear me well?
Yes.
Can you see my slides too?
Yep.
Brilliant. So hello, everyone. My name is Lauren. I'm from Light Blue Environmental Consulting, and we help commercial kitchens to get fit. So to start, do you know how much food you are wasting per day and how much it costs you? So let's do a quick calculation. And imagine you are a standard restaurant currently serving 40 covers per day due to the COVID situation. We estimate that one cover weighs on average 350 grams, not only what is remaining on the plate, but taking into consideration the upstream waste that is generated on the back of house. We also estimate that one restaurant on average will spend $3 per kilo of food purchased. Now, if we multiply those different indicators, we found $42. These $42 represent the cost of food waste per day in that restaurant with only 40 covers. And it adds up to more than $1,000 per month. Now, if we take a different setup, and if you look at a 5-star hotel buffet, we will use different industry references based on our experience working with the hospitality sector since more than 8 years. So here we will have a food waste per cover that is closest to half a kilo per cover, and a food cost around $4.5 per kilo. And here, the daily cost of food waste reached more than $200 per day, or almost $7,000 per month. And we have the solution to turn off the tap of money ending up in the bin. The Food Intel Tech, or FIT, enables you to monitor food waste and to answer 5 key questions. How much food is going to the bin? Why is food wasted? What type of food? When and where? So thanks to the app, you can collect food waste data on an ongoing basis directly in the kitchen in just 5 clicks. And data are sent automatically to our data analytics software, where you can get all the information you need to take relevant action and adapt your operations, because you will be able to analyze causes of food waste, know where to act, and track your performance. It's very easy and fast to implement. You only need to get basic low-cost equipment, namely one Android tablet or phone, one digital scale, and one bin, and you can do the setup in less than 2 hours. Nowadays, the hospitality sector is facing unprecedented challenges, and we need solutions that are cost-efficient and that can be deployed at large scale. And in parallel, consumers are increasingly looking to support local players who are acting for the planet and that can demonstrate environmental KPIs. And food waste represents 7% of the global greenhouse gas emission. So thanks to FIT, you can both optimize the food costs while minimizing your environmental footprint. It's a technology that is profitable. You can reduce your food waste per cover by 30% and associated costs by 5%. It is also cost effective. It's running on generic devices and its own equipment. And it is also savvy. You get all the answers to understand your food waste performance, and you can capture data from large operations with multiple locations that are generated food waste. For instance, you can cover your main kitchen, your all-day dining, and your kitchen in the canteen. The technology has been built based on the experience of Light Blue over the last 8 years, where we have been running food waste prevention program with government and development agencies, hotels and restaurant groups, and culinary institutes in Europe and Asia. And together we help our partners to save or not to waste 1 million kilos of food. So if you are willing to join the movement and to tackle food waste in your operation, you can get FIT from only $4 per day, which is approximately the cost of food for one cover, or 4 times less than the daily cost of food waste that we calculated earlier. You have no commitment. You can go for a monthly subscription. And we are offering you a free trial so that you can test it and see the impact for 45 days. So if you are interested to test it, you can just go in our website and request for a free demo, or you can send me an email. I will be happy to answer any questions you may have. Thank you.
Lauren, really good presentation. I guess well-timed. I think exactly 5 minutes. Wow.
I'm happy about this.
Yes, it was really good presentation. Enjoyed it very much. Ella, do you have any questions for Light Blue Consulting and what they do?
I do, and I love this so much because I think the food waste, I mean, I come from a farming background, so the food waste is such an issue, and it's shocking to see, and it's from the profitable side as well, you know, and when you do those calculations, it's really kind of hits home. So what my question was is that I know that you bring in this, that it's profitable for companies, but have you seen that this is really enough for people to invest in it to make this change? Because I know that in some cases they've actually had to almost charge restaurants and cafes on the amount of food waste they produce, but you're doing it a lot more from the reward side, which is brilliant. Have you found that this is kind of enough for companies? Does it really encourage them?
So I think there's two things when it comes to why a company will decide to tackle food waste. For some of them, it will be to see that basically wasting food is wasting money. That may seem very down to earth, but that's true. Other will be more motivated by the environmental impact, in the sense that I didn't really focus on this, but I said it's like 7% of the greenhouse gas emissions that come from food waste. If food waste was a country, it would be the third biggest greenhouse gas emitter after the US and China. So it's also a way to, by tackling food waste, you are also fighting climate change. So it's also a way to align with your commitments that more and more hotels and restaurants have nowadays. Then when it comes to, I think you can also have a social impact, either by raising awareness of your employees and providing them also new skills, but also how you communicate your action towards your guests. And there you can have the stick or carrot approach. On our side, we are more in a positive way, and how you can encourage and demonstrate your positive action to motivate people to act rather than maybe paying for the waste. But it's a different approach, and I think it's really understand what are the objectives and behaviors of the different stakeholders to find really the tailored solution.
Brilliant, thank you.
Well, we don't have any questions, but actually I have a question. When it comes to food waste, something that we've tackled here at PADA, we did a program back a couple of years ago. In culture in Asia, it's sort of, you come to a guest house and, you feed them. So how challenging is that to sort of encourage sort of the change of that culturally in Asia, and how much has been a challenge for you guys?
Yes. Indeed, and here we are more focusing on the consumer plate behaviors. So as we are focusing first on prevention, so try to make sure that food waste does not happen in the first place, in the back of house, in the kitchen. How can you adapt your operations? And then when it comes to, I would say, guest behaviors, how can you nudge them? How can you positively influence their behaviors? There are a lot of different techniques. It's true that, for instance, I know that in Asia, for instance, it's polite to leave food on your plate. That means that you're full. So then it's by finding ways to, I think it's very important that people understand why food waste is an issue. And if you don't get the why, it's very hard to get people to act. So I think the first stage is really about raising awareness and showing that why there is an issue, why you should act, and to bring some kind of positive feeling and movement so that you get a reward acting towards the environment. But I think, of course, it won't be done in such a second, but it's really about educating, I would say, about the issue. Because often we don't see it, food waste happen at many different places. Even when you are at home, for instance, it will be a bit on your spoilage, a bit at the end of your food, and you don't see the big picture. So I think it's also important to help people take that step back and to understand what is the global impact of it. Okay,
Lauren, thank you very much. I think our time's up for the 3 minutes here. So if you want to contact Lauren, you can actually go to her exhibitor booth, and reach out to Light Blue to find out more of how you can, about their company and what they do and how they can help your business. So move on to our next speaker is Brad. We just heard from him on the panel. He's, of course, the Managing Director of APAC at Winnow. Welcome back, Brad, and I'll pass this over to you.
Great. Thanks a lot, Paul. Super. Well, look, thanks everybody who joined the panel earlier, and welcome to those of you who didn't have a chance to listen to that. And Paul, thanks for giving us a slot here. We talked about food waste during the panel a little bit, and Winnow is a technology company underpinned by artificial intelligence and machine learning that are helping enterprises, whether they're casinos or remote mining organization, hotels, or any kind of hospitality setting, reduce food waste by half through predicting what is being wasted and bringing that data into the cloud that delivers insights. But before I get into sort of how all that works, I just want to take a minute and just talk about, or probably not even a minute, Paul, but take a few seconds just to say, what is the problem? And I think Lauren did a nice job of outlining some of this. It's 8% of total global greenhouse gas emissions, and that's 3x plastic. And so there's been a lot of really good work by corporations trying to tackle plastic, which is a serious issue. We think food waste is the next plastic to go after because of the enormous drain on the environment. Consuming 25% of the world's fresh water and an arable land the size of China. So if you tell that to the 1 billion people who are water or food starved, then the waste becomes really a moral imperative to do something about food waste. So Winnow was fashioned after trying to get after this with a lot of other really solid companies that are trying to solve the same problem. We're in 40 different countries in some 19 different languages, and since we started up around 8 years ago, we've saved our customers around $42 million. So that gets to the profit piece that Winnow will typically drive an ROI in a kitchen or across an enterprise of anywhere between 2x and 8x. So we typically wash our face at least a couple of times a year on the investment of putting this in a kitchen. And we save 36,000 meals. So we're just getting started. Our objective is to save $1 billion in food waste over the next 7 years. And so we have an awful lot of work to do. And our teams in offices in the Middle East, in North America, and Asia are working really hard with some of the clients you see here on trying to solve this problem. Where is the problem? We focus in a very distinct environment. We focus in the kitchen, in a commercial kitchen. And so people are doing great work in habitat protection. We talked about that earlier, and we're focused in the kitchen on the 10 to 20% of the waste before that food is plated. And so when you're dealing with spoilage, preparation, overproduction, you're dealing with chefs and procurement and planning. And so this is something you can control and you can measure it. So it's a really exciting space to work in. We've developed 3 different technology platforms depending on the size of the kitchen. And so Track is the one on the left. So it's a standalone tablet. It's got a menu. It's got food costs. We understand the weight of that food. And we enter in the data down to menu item or type of food, a croissant, and how many portions of croissant did you throw away? And we value that and send that into the cloud. When a waste monitor in the center is for larger environments, mid-sized kitchens that have a little bit more volume and a little bit more complex menu. And so we automate the capture of the weight through a scale connected to the screen. And over to the right is Winnow Vision, and that's underpinned by artificial intelligence and machine learning. So we will move toward automation in measuring and capturing menu item level food waste. And this is a pretty good short video that'll show you how this works. It's connected to a scale. There's a camera, high speed, high image, connected to a smart tablet, connected to the cloud. And as chefs or food handlers throw something away, in this case, it'll be peas, The camera will snap a picture of that. It goes through our database and understands through machine learning that that was peas, and it will value it, it will weigh it, and it will aggregate it, whether that's across one kitchen or 1,000 kitchens across an enterprise. So we really help with not only identifying food waste savings, but we're really starting to get into demand planning and forecasting and to that control that I talked about earlier. That all goes up into reporting and insights. And so we work with companies, individual chefs, as well as large corporates to help develop objectives and KPIs that meet their corporate goals. We visualize that data for them, whether it's food waste images or sheer data and trends. And then we help them benchmark across sites or within a site. And we're looking really to help them understand trends that are taking place throughout a day, a week, a month, or a year. The images are really quite powerful. I put this in here only because it's sort of a real world story where there was a large group that wanted to get after yield. And so it's really interesting. Before Winnow Vision and AI capability, where we were capturing images, we would tell someone they threw away 10 kg of salmon or 5 kg of salmon, and that was $300. But when you show a chef a picture of this, chefs are really visceral, and they really use this as training. So this is an evolution over a period of months of getting better yield out of vegetables, and that's really good for the bottom line, but it's significantly better for the environment. So you're purchasing less food, you're trucking less food in, you're tipping less food into a landfill, and obviously you're having a significant impact on greenhouse gas emissions.
Brad, I think your time is up.
That's it.
That's it.
Thank you, Paul.
Well, stay with us, but you can stop sharing screen. I'll ask Eller to come back.
Great.
Any questions, Eller, you might have for Brad? You're on mute. You're on mute.
Sorry, I wonder how many times
I couldn't get out of my screen, Ellie. So we were. I work for a technology company. I don't know how it works.
And so do I. So do I. And this is why I love this so much. Again, speaking about food waste, super important. And I'm the co-founder of technology for social impact company. So I love this and how you've used the AI to. It's brilliant. I really, really love it. My question was more because I know you mentioned, I can't quite remember the name, but you mentioned there's 3 kind of different levels. And the first one is kind of the tablet. And I'd love to know how this one works. And is this one more for kind of very small, for smaller places, or do they go kind of hand in hand? Because the AI one is brilliant.
Yeah, it would go for, I think a cafe and a bistro is a really good example of this. So one of the things in terms of getting good data, because if you don't have good data, you're really not making good choices, right? Or good decisions, or not as good as they could be. And so with really larger volumes, the AI piece helps you get super high levels of accuracy, and it removes a lot of the human error. So with a pen and a paper, you can't keep up with that. But track is for a smaller environment where you're dealing in portions. So I'm throwing away 12 croissants. I'm throwing away. So it's not a pain chocolat. It's a baked croissant. And so we average out the value of that. So within a few clicks, you're quickly getting data and enough in a bistro to make really good decisions on how much you're putting out or how much you're baking.
Brilliant. It's great. Yeah, I love it. Thank you.
Thanks. Thank you.
Any more questions? Ella, if you have any other questions, we still have a couple more minutes here. I don't, but
I'm speaking a lot, I know, but this really excites me. It's brilliant. So again, for this, the tablet one, the tracker, is this, say if you mentioned that it is averaged, is it across different locations, or this is just kind of the local average of the price of this food, for example? Because I'm just trying to, how does it work for if it's a part of, for vegetables or for fruit or something like this? Does it work across the board, I suppose?
It does. And so you've got a trade-off between granularity of pricing and accuracy of data. So what's not going to move the needle on food waste reduction is something cost $1.10 each, or 90 cents each. That won't move the needle. What moves the needle is that you're capturing the loss. And so we'll take food items in a track example and we'll cost average out like menu items. So if there are vegetables within 10 or 15% of one another, we will cost that out that way. And same thing with bakery items or sandwiches. And so we therefore simplify the menu, we simplify the number of clicks, and you're getting quality data that's driving decisions. So we know that at the data level that we populate, we're driving anywhere between a 30% and a 50% reduction in food waste.
Wow, brilliant. Thanks a lot.
Right. Well, we're at the 3 minutes. So thank you very much, Brad.
Thank you.
Ella will be back with us after the next presentation. But as you notice, as food waste is an issue. So if you need to address it, so there's 2 companies here that can help you address it, but you should address it. It's extremely important, as they've both pointed out. Next with us, welcome back, Nia. As I said, she is the Regional Sustainability Coordinator at Curie Travel and Curie Reach. So Nia, over to you.
Thank you very much, Paul. Let me just find my PowerPoint. Okay, can you see my screen?
Yep, perfect.
Perfect. Okay. So in January 2020, Curie Travel declared climate emergency. So I want to talk to you a little bit about climate change and what you can do with carbon offsetting in tourism. Just to give you a very brief overview of Curie Travel and who we are. Curie is a destination management company. We were founded in 1993, and today we operate in 7 countries, which are Cambodia, Indonesia, Laos, Myanmar, Sri Lanka, Thailand, and Vietnam. We create and deliver personalized itineraries to operators worldwide, and in everything we do, internally, externally, we keep in mind the triple bottom line, which is people, planet, and profit. And it was mentioned before, we became the very first DMC to be Travel Life certified in all of our destinations last year. Curie Reach is our non-profit organization. We support different sustainable development projects in all of our destinations. Okay, as I said, we declared climate emergency. So why we believe tourism, if it's done in a responsible manner, it has extremely positive effects on our destinations. But traveling itself, and we must acknowledge that, has an impact on the environment and on our climate. So this is why we declared climate emergency. We have signed the Tourism Declares Climate Emergency Declaration last year. And with a declaration, we make the promise that we accept the advice from IPCC that we need to cut our global carbon emissions to 55% below the 2017 levels within the next 10 years to really stay within this 1.5 degrees of climate warming. The step further is we have developed a climate emergency plan. So this plan really helps us to monitor, evaluate, and improve our environmental impacts. So what does it say? So we focused a lot on the internal emissions and our internal footprint. As I mentioned before in the panel, we are measuring what we're using. We are measuring our electricity, our waste, our water, our paper. So we're trying our best to become low emission offices with zero waste and eventually paperless. Whenever we need to buy something, might it be cleaning products or gifts for guests, it's responsible alternatives. And we involve our stakeholders. So that means we educate our staff and tour guides, our drivers, but also our hotel suppliers and our excursion suppliers. We have developed very detailed sustainability assessments, and we then promote socially responsible and eco-friendly partners. We also, again, I mentioned this before in the panel, we collaborate with other leaders in the tourism industry. We want to share best practices. We want to exchange experiences and get really this discussion going. And with Curie Reach, we support different kind of projects and organizations really focusing on that topic of climate change. So how can you get started as mentioned before, measuring is the key. We need to, we know exactly how much electricity and water we're using in each of our offices, how much waste we're producing, how much paper, what's our staff commute, what are the means, and how many kilometers are traveled per day, and what are our business flights. We set annual goals. For example, we want to reduce our use of electricity by 10%, and then we improve. Same, we did that with itineraries. We looked at the accommodation, excursions, kilometers per day by car, bus, train, boat, and of course the regional flights. And now we want to offset our carbon emissions through gold standard projects with our partner Climate Care in Southeast Asia. And we automatically add the carbon fee to all of our itineraries for all of our guests. And I mentioned that before, we also had we have developed a whole new itinerary, which is called the Rediscovering the Art of Slow Travel, including no flights, more time in one destination, at least 15 days, visiting activities which actively benefit people and planet, and staying at responsible accommodation providers. You can find our climate emergency plan at the Kiri booth, so come visit us. And if you have any questions, how you can measure your impact, how you can measure your footprint, or how you can develop a climate emergency plan yourself, please get in touch and I'm happy to help you. Paul, you're on mute.
Yep. Yes, that was actually shorter than 5 minutes, but yes, good job. Ella, I'll let you ask any questions you may have.
Brilliant, thank you. So I love what you're doing and how you're really, really thinking about all the different parts of it. You know, you're obviously thinking a lot about your customers and the local community and society. How can you also engage your supply chain and really motivate kind of local partners to aim a lot of attention at kind of working towards the sustainability?
Right. So we, as I said, we have these sustainability assessments in place. So we have developed a very long questionnaire where we ask especially these kind of questions like how much electricity are you using per month in your property? How much waste are you producing? Are you separating your waste? What happens with the wastewater? What happens with food waste? All of these things. So we really assess our suppliers. And then we also train our suppliers. So if there's the need that they want more information, we can provide them with trainings, or we connect them with the right partners in the industry, with the right experts. And we also have, for example, trained our staff. So whenever they go on a product inspection, they have a list of questions they can ask, so that in every communication we have with our suppliers, they realize like, oh wow, Kiri's actually looking towards these questions, and they want to know what we do with our waste and so on. So it just creates awareness, I think.
That's brilliant, and I love your focus on the training of them as well, because I think a lot of the time with supply chains, they might not know, you know, they know that they need to improve, but they don't know how. So it's just brilliant that you're doing that and bringing in, you know, the tour guides and stuff. It's super important. And I know you've spoken a little bit about kind of how you evaluate this sustainability. So what would be your main recommendation for businesses? I know you spoke about it a little bit before, but what would be your main recommendation for a business that wants to kind of follow in your footsteps and make this kind of positive change? And how would they really get started?
I think it's extremely important to really include everyone. So if the CEO decides to, hey, we want to become more responsible, it doesn't work. So it's really a bottom down and bottom up approach. I think everyone has to be included. So when we do trainings on sustainability within Kiri, for example, it's really for everyone, from the office mate, but also for the CEO. So everyone needs to be involved. Every voice needs to be heard. So I think that's extremely important. And I think it's important to make it relatable to staff so that they understand, why are we doing this? What does it mean? What are the impacts? And how I personally, what can I do to help Kiri to become more responsible? I think that's extremely important, and it's not going to work if the staff is not behind it, really. So everyone needs to play a part. I think that's really, really important. And another point I can recommend is really the Travel Life certification really helped us. So going with a certification like Travel Life or EarthCheck, for example, it really helps you to break down this very huge and massive and complex topic of sustainability, and it leads you step by step through that process of becoming more responsible. And it's, you know, it's little things like, hey, what kind of light bulbs are you using in your office? So you start thinking about these little things and then you start changing it. So it's a very good management tool to become more responsible.
Brilliant. Thanks a lot.
Well, thank you very much, Ellen and Nia. We'll move on to our next company. But actually, Nia, for those who don't know, Nia used to be an intern long time ago. So it's actually fantastic to see our former interns grow and flourish in the industry and actually making a difference over at Kiri. So thank you so much, Nia. And
Thank you, Paul.
We'll move on to our next company. Welcome back, Bijan Kazai. He is the CEO of Hotel Resilience. So Bijan. Okay.
Hello.
Right.
I'm going to share my screen. Okay. Can you see it in full screen view?
Just give us a second. Yes, you're all good.
Yes. Well, thanks for the slot and being here. Really great to hear these previous presentations. I wanted to get back to the resilience side of things. And I mentioned in the panel discussion, PATA had found that 60% of hotels don't have a crisis management plan. In fact, we've been working with PATA for some years now. Hotel Resilient grew out of the Hotel Resilient Initiative, which was a partnership between PATA, the German Development Corporation, and the UN Office for Disaster Risk Reduction. Because of this exact problem, there are no real set of consistent practices or a globally accepted industry endorsed standard when it comes to disaster risk management and climate change adaptation, specifically developed for hotels. So that partnership attempted to develop these standards, and it was over a 3-year period where we came in and helped put these standards in place through a multi-agency cooperation, and that gave rise to Hotel Resilient as a certification body and organization now based in Germany. These are very detailed standards. They cover about 250 elements. They're composed of site, systems, and management. And the idea is that you do a vulnerability screening via a software-supported system all the way from the foundation of at the building level of a hotel to what type of walls and architectural elements to the roof connections. So all of those things are considered, and then they're combined with hazard models that insurance and reinsurance companies use. So very detailed hazard modeling to give you a understanding of risk at the disaggregated over different hazard types. Once you understand that, then there's other elements in here to look at systems in place in a hotel, infrastructure, evacuation systems, warning systems, to see how you can reduce that risk and mitigate it. And then this is all kind of covered by a management set of protocols on communication, on business continuity, and disaster preparedness. There's a handbook that goes with that, but importantly also, as I mentioned, this has to be risk-based, and that's really the innovation also behind Hotel Resilient, is that we're bringing in all these detailed hazard models, interacting it with the hotel to come up with essentially a risk footprint for various types of risks. And you can see disease outbreak was one of the areas that we had even before the pandemic targeted. So as the COVID crisis happened, we put together the COVID ready standards, which I'll talk to you about in a bit. The platform itself has importance on analytics, so all the risk analytics that come into it. Then an audit management platform that takes you step by step through a different types of audits, and information to read up on it, comment on it, to create tasks off of it, and to track compliancy on your audit. So we provide resources to hotels. We have templates for standard operating procedures, checklists, signage that help them in putting together, a crisis management plan and passing essentially these audits, and then they can apply for certification if they so desire to. There's an e-learning portal that is also there to help different hotel staff go through these standards, understand them, and for their areas of operation. So the COVID ready solution is really the standards, the software platform that puts that through an auditing process and a certification that's all done online via the platform itself. The COVID ready standards are international standards that we've compiled since the beginning of the pandemic from various international sources, and they follow the hotel resilient site systems management set of areas. So they go beyond hygiene and health. They're looking at it from a holistic crisis and multi-hazard disaster risk management perspective. But at the same time, in every instance where we implement them, we're working together closely with governments. So we've worked in Ecuador with the Ministry of Tourism there, in the Philippines with the Department of Tourism, in Sri Lanka with organizations there, as well as the SLTDA, Sri Lanka Development Authority, to actually localize these standards and make sure that they can be implemented there, including by small, medium enterprises. We've certified already a number of hotels across these destinations, but what we're also working towards is actually creating a communication platform that hotels can use to transparently show all the great safety and sustainability actions that they're implementing. If they're certified by us, we can verify that, but they can still show both in terms of media and in terms of testimonials, as well as the audit reports that they do once they are on the platform in a very transparent way, the various elements of resilience that they have in place in terms of climate action, disaster preparedness, and also now COVID ready. So our goal is really to build a community and promote a community of like-minded, climate resilient, sustainable, and inclusive hotels worldwide. And we hope to achieve that through our platform by bringing in multiple partners. So we're working across different regions. We're working with different hotel groups, different hotel associations, with governments, and through that, we hope to promote hotels to use our platform. The platform is free. You can look at it by logging into the website. And for sure, if you have any questions, we have a booth available for any of your questions in the next few days.
Thank you very much, Bijan. It's trying to stop you there, but I will let Eller ask any questions first, and over to you, Eller.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, it's brilliant, really, really interesting, and I haven't seen quite something like this, that covers so many different aspects and that relates it really to the kind of the local area, which I think is super interesting. So I have one of my questions is, when we look at sustainability, there's almost an issue now of how people define it. Sustainability, there's a big issue with greenwashing, and people will say, oh, sustainability is just, it could be a sustainable company that lasts a long time, but actually ignores the environmental side. Right. So very recently, I've been looking a lot into this resilience, and I would just really like to know, how do you define this? Because I've heard quite a few different ways of talking about it, and I'd love to know, what your input is.
Sure. Yeah, this is an excellent question. We can expand on this forever, but in a way, to get at sort of the gist of it, resilience can be part of sustainability. Sustainability can be part of resilience. We're looking at it in terms of disaster resilience specifically, or crisis resilience, is two things. One is sort of being able to withstand sort of the stressor the impact of whatever disaster it is, or the climate impacts that is. That's the sort of classical way of bouncing back to normal, as it's often called. And it's more of an engineering way of looking at things. At the same time, I think a really important way to look at resilience is the ability to transform. So the issue here is not bouncing back to the original state. The original state may not even have been the desirable state to bounce back to. There's an opportunity to actually bounce forward into a new state. So I think that encompasses many things, and that's where resilience becomes much more expansive and starts including a lot of the sustainability aspects as well. So in that sense, when you think about climate resilience, it's not just climate mitigation, there's climate actions that a hotel could take that we're also looking at. So that's the overlap between what we're looking at and the sustainability sort of assessments that are available.
That's brilliant. And I love how you talk about this transformation side of resilience, because I think this is maybe not so well known, but it is about this. You know, if something's really resilient, but in a negative space, that's not necessarily positive. So it's about this transformation as well. So I love that you said that. So I have a question about the COVID ready standards that you're working with. I know we spoke a bit before in the discussion about the kind of the plastic and everything that has come from these new kind of well, everything from COVID, from the masks, from the gloves. How can you deal with this problem with your COVID ready standards? Do you kind of include that side in it?
Brilliant. Yes. And very early on in our work, we started discussions and a collaboration with a group that is doing exactly that, looking at, not just coming up with ideas and recommendations on how to reduce plastic waste in, the circumstances of COVID, but also pointing customers directly to where they can avail themselves of different services and products. So in our COVID ready standards, we have an option and we strongly recommend the hotels to try to eliminate use of plastic wherever it's safe, and from a hygiene and safety perspective where that's permissible, and we provide that options within the audit tool. So that's certainly one of the areas where sustainability issues overlap with COVID readiness. But I guess there's a whole bunch of other areas where you can be more prepared for COVID and think about sustainability at the same time.
Brilliant, thank you.
The 3 minutes are up, so thank you very much, Bijan. Thank you, Eller. We have the next speaker is the sales director at Mentari Alam Eco, based in Malaysia. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome, hope I pronounced this right, Mai U.
Hi.
Hi.
Hi, thank you everyone. Thank you for giving this opportunity for Meko to be here to present our solution. Can you see my screen now?
Yes, I think you just need presenter view and then you're all good.
Okay.
Just
all right. Okay. So thank you very much. I think the previous presenters have talked about food waste reduction, more on the prevention side. So for us, Meko, we look into the food waste issue, but on the unavoidable food waste, because we know a lot of so-called solution currently are mainly to the landfill, those unavoidable food waste. So like from food waste generation to disposal, this is an area that we say is not, it's just linear. And what we could do is that we provide a solution whereby it's food waste valorization. Food waste is a resource, and we have a recovery, so-called a composting solution. And then the resource can be utilized again as a soil enhancer and back to the cycle again as a food source. So this is what we say as a very resilient solution is circular economy. This is what Meko can provide. So what do we have here? Now we have a few technology, but one of them is what we call the on-site composter, and it's aerobic. So within the short period of 24 hours, we can compose the unavoidable food waste into a compost that can be reused. And at the same time, we have what we call the liquid composting equipment as well, where if compost is not the option, the hotels can go for the solution there, whereby all food waste can be turned into a water and then go to the grease trap and then back to the drainage system in a very, very so-called sustainable way, and it's clean. So one thing about our solution is really a very clean and neat on-site waste management. Of course, the first step is reduction of food waste. That's number one, with data, with all the precautions and all that. But yet there will still definitely be waste that's unavoidable, like the leftover, from the kitchen or from the table. So we have a series of products that can fit into a different waste capacity or volume. So it helps to reduce the greenhouse gas by 66%. And the good thing about our solution, we can help tackle food waste, like including bones and shells, where a lot of people couldn't do it. And it's scalable and it's very fast to adopt immediately when they feel like doing it. It's just like a washing machine. You put the waste in, press a button, and the next day the compost is out. So what we have here is either the hotel can have a direct purchase, or they can rent it, which is a contract basis, so that it's very economical, or they can just lease it for a period of time and own the machine towards the end of the period. So these are some of the segments. We cover hospitality, wet markets, manufacturing, even healthcare, where it's very, very important, property, education, and community. So at this period of time, I think it's a good time, even though the business is a bit slow, but it is a good time to look at the back end where we can do all the preparations. So we urge, the hotels, anywhere in hospitality, whereby you can see that this is the time to really plan, So just a few pictures, like this is one of them in a convention center where waste is being valorized, into composting, even in malls and some hotels. So you can see composting or even liquid composting can be implemented anywhere with just a small amount. So just convert the waste haulage cost or the landfill tipping fee into a rental contract with Meko. You can immediately start a composting process or zero waste, food waste out. So the compost can be done in a CSR program or buyback program, or even enhance the soil around the hotel. So thank you very much. I think this is a good solution. If you'd like to get in touch with us, visit us and see us from the website as well. Thank you.
Thank you very much, May. Ella, I'll pass it over for you. Any questions first?
I think it's brilliant, absolutely. And, compost is one of those things that is super important, and it's such a resource. And if you can use it, if you can create it by using waste food, then it's brilliant. So I have a couple of questions. One of them is about the timing, because, if you're hand making compost, it can take quite a long time, because you need for it all to ferment and things like this. So how long does it take for it to be ready with your solution?
Yeah, with Meko solution, we synergizes both mechanical and biological. So with the right combination and the conducive environment, we just need to take like less than 24 hours. So it's pretty fast.
That's brilliant. And my second question is, because you're mentioning about circular economy a lot. Now, one of my favorite things from circular economy is about industrial symbiosis. Yes. So, how all of the different companies are working together and things like this, and using the waste from one company as a resource for another company. So what I'd love to know is how do you kind of involve the other businesses or the local community or anything like this in the kind of either collection of the food waste or anything like that?
Okay, some of the current situation is when the hotel engage Meko to have an on-site solution. So when they have the compost itself, they will trade it with their suppliers, like the vegetable suppliers. Some of them will just like give them the compost and then they get some vegetable for a certain amount for free, or they would get the they would get a vegetable supplier to maybe have a plot, specially plant with this compost, like herbs and all that, to supply back to the hotel, which I think this is really like symbiotic, and it will be like organic based. So it's really good for the hotel guests to know that whatever is left there it will be recycled back and then become a food and organic to serve on their table again. Yeah, this is what they do right now.
That's brilliant. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Well, thank you very much, Ella. Thank you very much, May.
Yes,
yeah,
thank you.
fantastic to hear. We heard about food waste from both Light Blue and Winnow before. It was more of like the back end. This is more of the end use. So it's actually good to see both sides. So yeah, I mean, it's really, they're also showing that food waste is a really important subject that we need to address. And, you know, there's different ways to address the solutions. And I love to hear that these, you know, how these companies are, you know, trading off sort of the compost and using it back to, you know, to make a symbiotic relationship. Actually, fantastic here. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Ella, I should just mention to you, our last company is actually not here. They actually they just sent to me a video, so we'll play the video. But then after that, I think we're done here. So Ella, thank you so much for joining us today and helping me moderate the sessions and moderating the panel earlier today.
Thanks a lot for having me. It's been super interesting and so brilliant. Well, I mean, all of them have been brilliant. So yeah, thank you so much for inviting me.
Yes, and if anybody wants to reach out to Ella, I know she is on the platform as a visitor. You can reach out to her, send her a message, find out more about Ella and what she does at her company and how maybe she can help you out as well. So thank you so much, Ella.
Thank you.
And now we'll get to our last company here, and it is EarthCheck. And as I said, they provided us a video. So let's just play that for you real quickly here. Thank you. So that was EarthCheck. If you would like to learn more about what EarthCheck is doing, please visit their booth on the event platform. You can schedule a meeting or give them a call if they happen to be online. Or also you can check out their website. I believe it's just earthcheck.org. They've been one of our members for a long time and a partner as well. So let me just share my screen 1 second here. So thank you very much to all of our companies that are exhibiting and pitched here today. Of course, Graham, Lauren from Light Blue, Brad from Winnow, Nia and from Kiri, and Bijan from Hotel Resilient. The three of them, thank you also for being part of the panel discussion. Thank you, May from Mentari, or I guess Myco company, and then EarthCheck, thank you so much for sending the video. A big thank you to all of our sponsors, ADB Ventures, TCEP, and Simplifying. I also want to say a very special thank you to Ella. It's been a pleasure working with you, and thank you so much for moderating both and actually helping me with the pitch scenes. So please find out more about what Ella does. So with that, that is the end of today's session. So thank all of you for joining us today. Please do join us for tomorrow's and Thursday's sessions. We're going to continue with our Discover Beyond sessions tomorrow morning at 10 a.m. Bangkok time. It's Discover Beyond Technology, why it's critical to upgrade your back-end technologies today. And then after that, we have Discover Beyond MICE. This is MICE Startups with the Thailand Convention and Exhibition Bureau. And then on Thursday, as we close out the final day of Pada Beyond, we have Discover Beyond Marketing, effectively marketing travel during a pandemic. And then we close out at 2 p.m., that's 2 p.m. Bangkok time, with Discover Beyond 2021. Welcome to the new normal. That should be interesting to watch. That will be with Dr. Mario Hardy, the CEO of Pada. So please do join us over the next 2 days. And with that, if you have any questions about today's sessions, about anything that's happening, previously happened, or anything about the event platform or the exhibitors, please do feel free to reach out to me. My name again is Paul Prangan, the Director of Communications and External Affairs at Pada. Email address is fairly easy, paul@pada.org. Any questions you have about any of our activities, feel free to visit our website, www.pada.org. Thank you very much. And I also just wanted to add, please don't forget to visit the other exhibitors, schedule a meeting with them, give them a call, find out more about what they're doing, and see how they can help your business build back post-COVID-19. And with that, thank you very much. And I hope to see you all again tomorrow's session at 10 a.m. Bangkok time. Thank you.